There's so many powerful people that went and partied. And how many of them went to the Diddy parties? Have you been paying attention to the trial?
Oh, yeah.
Trials. Wild. We know people are depraved enough to try to get straight guys to suck their dick.
What's going to happen, though, you think?
Well, Diddy's going to be in jail for the rest. Like, what the is going on? How many guys were on video saying, ain't no party like a Diddy party?
LeBron?
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, how about Ashton Kutcher? Diddy party. All this Diddy coming out. Like,
I was just going to say, doesn't that sound topical?
Jesus Christ. The first day of the trial, did you pay attention to any of that stuff? I looked at it for like 10 minutes this morning, and I was like, I gotta stop. I can't.
What began as a routine discussion on Joe Rogan's podcast slowly took an unexpected turn. As the conversation shifted to Diddy's case, Rogan didn't just react, he recognized a pattern. The more details surfaced, the clearer it became that this wasn't a closing chapter but an opening one. Something larger was unfolding. Once the connections became visible, they were impossible to ignore. And what Rogan seemed to realize is this: the story doesn't end here. It may only be started.
They air it the same way they aired the coverage that Johnny Depp got.
I know. Why don't they? I don't know. They should.
It's, Jaguar Wright said this, an ex-employee of him. He goes, if you can get a man to suck you, you can do anything.
One of the district attorneys was hiding. They were hiding documents. They had to force them to give documents. I think there's so many powerful people that are on those lists. There's so many powerful people that went and partied. Air quotes. Partied.
Wide spectrum of people that are getting subjected to it, and you just sit there and go.
Yeah, well, not only that, how about the fact that this guy was running this for decades?
He's in cahoots with Epstein, and then
was he in cahoots with Epstein, or was it just a similar type of an operation?
No, they were friends.
Really?
Yeah, because Epstein had on Miami as well, that really private, rich.
Joe Rogan didn't accidentally wander into an uncomfortable conversation. He stepped directly into something far more unsettling. While discussing Diddy on his podcast, Rogan began connecting dots that are rarely spoken about openly. As those connections formed, one thing became increasingly clear: this story doesn't begin or end with one individual. It doesn't stop at a single arrest, a viral headline, or a celebrity downfall. Instead, it points upward, toward systems of power that rarely face scrutiny. Many people see Diddy behind bars and assume the case is finished. Justice served, end of story. But history shows that high-profile cases rarely work that way. A recent discussion on Joe Rogan's podcast peeled back a layer of this situation that feels far larger and far darker than most expected. When examined closely, it raises a disturbing possibility: Diddy may not have been the one calling all the shots. Behind him appears to be a network that extends well beyond what mainstream coverage ever explores. These aren't casual associations or surface-level relationships. They are deep, long-standing ties that cut across entertainment, politics, money, and influence. This is the kind of power that doesn't announce itself publicly. It operates quietly, shaping narratives, controlling exposure, and determining which stories gain traction and which vanish overnight. Once you start viewing the case through that lens, certain patterns become harder to ignore. Why are some names never questioned? Why do some investigations stall without explanation? Why do certain details disappear as quickly as they emerge? By discussing this publicly, Joe Rogan may have walked into a conversation far bigger than he anticipated. Before drawing conclusions about the figures operating in the shadows, it's important to understand the foundation of the case itself. Federal prosecutors allege that Diddy used his wealth, fame, and influence to place people into deeply coercive and frightening situations, circumstances where consent was compromised and refusing wasn't a realistic option. Without grasping those allegations, the broader connections simply won't make sense.
Can someone come to Hollywood and not be successful?
Oh, hell yeah.
Not a requirement.
The requirement is you gotta say no to Diddy. If it's new booty in the building, you know he gonna get it.
Don't take your girlfriend to a Diddy party.
You take the he won't you. He is not worried about the bitch at all.
This is where the story takes a turn many weren't prepared for. Investigators describe private gatherings known as freak-offs, where guests were allegedly intoxicated and secretly recorded without consent. Imagine believing you're attending a typical celebrity party, only to later discover your actions were filmed and archived. That footage wasn't harmless or accidental. According to investigators, it served a purpose far more disturbing than entertainment alone.
The fact that he's not saying more now only means that the people who have been protecting him all along, who put him in position to be such a horror to the black community, still find value in him. He's got everybody on tape. They all know it.
More than 120 individuals have now come forward with allegations, but one detail stands out above all others. 25 of the accusers were minors, children. That fact alone shifts this from a story about excess or reckless behavior into one about systemic exploitation. It cuts through the noise and makes it impossible to dismiss what's being alleged. When 50 Cent released his Netflix documentary The Reckoning, it intensified public attention by bringing these accusations into the spotlight. For many viewers, it forced a conversation that had been avoided for years. Whether people were ready or not, the narrative could no longer be ignored. Yet there's another realization many still struggle to confront. Diddy may not have been acting alone, and he may not have been at the top of the hierarchy. That idea gained traction during a Joe Rogan podcast episode when comparisons to Jeffrey Epstein surfaced. Once that parallel was drawn, the similarities became difficult to dismiss. In both cases, one individual faces arrest for exploitation, yet the broader network surrounding them remains untouched, raising troubling questions about who is truly protected when power is involved.
It seems like the Diddy thing was like an Epstein-type compromise deal. I think he's a gangster who made $1 billion and knew how to control people by compromising them. That's what I think. Whether or not he had help, I don't know. Whether or not he shared some of that information with people so they knew they had compromising stuff on people, I don't know. But clearly he was doing it for his own jollies, too. There was something sick about it.
That was the pattern Rogan couldn't ignore. Epstein was accused of exploitation, yet officials claimed there were no clients. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, but again, no additional names surfaced. The storyline never changed, only the cast did. Each time, the figure at the center fell, while those positioned higher somehow vanished before accountability ever reached them.
He's in cahoots with Epstein, and then
Was he in cahoots with Epstein,
Yeah.
or was it just a similar type of an operation?
they were friends.
Really?
Yeah, because Epstein had on Miami as well, that really private, rich estate in Miami. So they were all in cahoots as well. But again, I think he's going to sing.
Isn't it crazy? Like, that was always the conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat thing. Oh, there's a place where the elites go. It's like, what?
The conversation grew even more uncomfortable when Rogan began referencing celebrities who openly joked about attending Diddy's parties. These weren't anonymous figures, they were well-known faces speaking casually on camera. The question lingered heavily: if they were present, how did they see nothing? At that level, silence doesn't feel random. It suggests awareness, avoidance, or something far more troubling.
One of the district attorneys was hiding documents that have forced them to give documents. I think there's so many powerful people that are on those lists. There's so many powerful people that went and partied. Air quotes. Partied. And how many
Diddy party stories? They're our favorite genre of anecdote. If you have one, yeah.
Wow. Okay, I've got a lot. I can't tell. So, can't tell that one either. I mean, I'm like actually cycling through them. Diddy party stories. Man, that was like some weird memory lane.
That's when attention shifts higher, to the power above the power. If Diddy controlled his corner of the industry, then Sir Lucian Grange sat far above it. As CEO of Universal Music Group, Grange oversees the labels, contracts, and career machinery tied directly to Diddy's rise. That kind of influence doesn't announce itself loudly, but it shapes everything beneath it. What truly stunned people was the claim that Grange's name appears in the Little Rod lawsuit. The argument isn't that music labels simply distribute records, it's that they create the infrastructure that allows powerful individuals to operate without interference. Access, protection, silence, and money all move through the same channels. When documents began surfacing, they suggested something far more organized than coincidence. This didn't look like chaos, it looked like a system.
Which there has been a full media blackout on, was what he alleged about Lucian Grange, who is the president and at the top of Universal Music, right? He's got a lot of power, and this is what it said in that law.
At the center of this layer of the story stands Sir Lucian Charles Grange. He has led Universal Music Group since 2010, placing him at the heart of the modern music industry for over a decade. This isn't someone observing from the sidelines. This is someone who has been present for countless closed-door conversations, negotiations, and decisions the public never sees. What makes this especially unsettling is that his name doesn't exist only in speculation. According to the lawsuit, it appears in formal documents. Alongside Grange, Universal Music Group itself is named, as well as Ethiopia Habtemariam, a high-ranking executive within the company who held significant influence during the same period that Diddy's career flourished. Her position carried real authority inside the system. Then there's Christina Koram. Frequently described as being exceptionally close to Diddy, not merely an employee but someone who worked directly beside him on a daily basis. The lawsuit suggests this inner circle wasn't unaware. It argues they were part of the environment that allowed the behavior to continue unchecked.
defendants, and UMG, that's Universal Music Group. As evidenced above, these parties had workers and underage girls present. During these parties, defendant Grange knew or should have known that Mr. Combs was the attendees through laced bottles of tequila and Ciroc vodka. It is no secret that Mr. Combs had specific bottles of alcohol designated for females and other bottles that were designated for his staff, his artists, and himself. This fact was detailed by former artists and bodyguards of Mr.
The allegations extend even further. According to the lawsuit, Grange didn't merely have awareness of the gatherings. It claims he helped enable them and personally attended multiple events at Diddy's Los Angeles residence. These were not described as casual parties. The filings allege the presence of sex workers and, more disturbingly, underage girls. That accusation alone reframes the entire situation. The lawsuit also claims members of this circle either knew or should have known that guests were being deliberately intoxicated. It describes alcohol bottles that were allegedly pre-laced and then chilled, including brands closely associated with Diddy. If true, that level of coordination suggests planning, not coincidence.
Listen, the guy was involved in music, right? Yes. And you get compromising information on these guys and get them 100%. To sign very unfavorable contracts. Yes. Like, what better way to get a guy to sign an unfavorable contract where you're going to get billions, because he was a billionaire, right? You that guy and film it. Yes. You get video of your boys that guy and filming it.
Or you let him. The lawsuit is explicit. It directly names Grange, Habtemariam, and Coram, alleging they witnessed what was taking place and failed to intervene. According to the documents, their inaction wasn't accidental. It was driven by money and power. At that level of the industry, financial interests often outweigh accountability. Executives are accused of protecting whatever keeps revenue flowing, even when the foundation is deeply compromised. That framing helps explain why this story hasn't dominated major news cycles. Its absence isn't due to weak claims, but to narrative control. Those with the most influence decide which stories are amplified and which quietly disappear. As attention shifts back toward Diddy's inner circle, one name repeatedly resurfaces: Jay-Z. Their relationship is described as unusually close. Diddy has publicly stated that only two people are allowed to call him by his real name, his mother and Jay-Z. That kind of access signals trust, proximity, and significance.
Who is Sean approved from the world of entertainment?
There's only one person.
Oh, go on.
And I call him Sean. That's Jay-Z. We call each other Sean.
Okay.
Yeah. Nobody else could call me Sean.
He's the only person who's Sean approved.
There's not a single person that
outside of family.
That should be outside of my mother.
Okay, just
that should be calling me. Yeah, they should be calling me Sean.
Feeling good? Oh, you put that thing on the woo! So you see how we do it here on the Saturday. This is what it's. You see how we do it here on the Saturday. This is what it's.
Then there's Jaguar Wright. Known for voicing what others avoid, she appeared in a high-profile interview and made serious allegations involving both Jay-Z and Diddy. Her statements were blunt, unsettling, and immediately controversial enough to make many people visibly uncomfortable.
For 4 years, I've been screaming, Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on. He starts little fires everywhere, forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away without a response. That changes now.
Piers Morgan, because there's a headline that went out that was very powerful that people are running with, where it just says, Jay-Z is the real monster. Now, before you speak on it, to even get to Piers Morgan, can you explain how that took place and why even take that interview to go forward?
I can't say that I sought it out because I didn't. Truth is we didn't see it coming. But I have to credit Odell.
Got Odeezy.
They reached out to him. Piers Morgan's producers called him direct.
What followed only raised more suspicion. The full interview suddenly disappeared. It wasn't edited, restricted, or hidden behind a paywall. It was simply gone. Almost overnight, it became difficult to locate. When content vanishes that quickly, questions naturally follow.
Well, Jaguar Wright unexpectedly made several serious allegations about Jay-Z and Beyonce during that interview. As I said in the moment, they were not present to respond or defend themselves, but now they have. Their lawyers contacted us to say that those claims were totally false and have no basis in fact, and we've therefore complied with the legal request to cut them from the original interview. Editing interviews is not something we do lightly at a show called Uncensored. But, like the proverbial cries of fire in a crowded theatre, there are legal limits on us too. And we apologise to Jay-Z and beyond.
During that discussion, Wright raised a question that has lingered for years. How does someone like Jay-Z appear on major television platforms without ever being asked about long-standing rumors or deep industry connections? Not once, not even indirectly. Wright didn't soften her language. She referred to both Diddy and Jay-Z as destructive forces, claiming their influence has shaped the industry for decades. Whether audiences agree with her or not, the response to her comments revealed something telling. Certain topics still trigger immediate shutdowns, and that reaction alone suggests there are conversations powerful interests would rather never happen publicly.
I have 3 victims right now who are willing to give testimony about not only what Mr. Carter has done to them, but his wife as well. They're a nasty little couple. They do nasty things.
At a certain point, one question refused to fade. Why would Jay-Z's longtime high-profile attorney suddenly become involved in Diddy's legal situation? That kind of crossover doesn't feel accidental. It feels deliberate. Jay-Z has never publicly addressed the surrounding rumors, and in a moment like this, silence no longer feels neutral. It feels calculated. Joe Rogan often explains that power at the highest levels works differently. People in those circles don't handle problems themselves. They retain specialists whose sole purpose is to ensure issues never reach public view, not just attorneys but fixers. One name that repeatedly surfaces in those discussions is Alan Grubman. To most people, the name means nothing, and that's precisely why it matters. Grubman has represented some of the most powerful figures in entertainment and business, quietly operating behind the scenes. His role, according to industry observers, involves containing damage, drafting ironclad non-disclosure agreements, and ensuring sensitive stories stay buried for decades. At that level, power isn't about visibility. It's about controlling information, and once someone with that influence decides a narrative won't surface, it often disappears entirely. Whenever Joe Rogan speaks with former CIA officer Mike Baker, they return to a familiar comparison: Diddy's alleged freak-offs in Jeffrey Epstein's island. The implication isn't that Diddy orchestrated everything alone. The more unsettling theory suggests he may have functioned as a facilitator placed into a role. If federal indictments are accurate and these gatherings were recorded, the question becomes unavoidable. Who was the footage meant for? The answer: many point to leads upward, to politicians, executives, and global elites who could never risk exposure, relying on others to absorb the danger while the real names remained hidden in the background.
My news feed is dominated by it. Fox News, CNN, everyone. There's raids at Diddy's house. I guess Diddy just kept people at his houses.
I think it's over.
You think it's over?
I think it's over for him as like a figure in entertainment.
But you think it's over as him as far as
jail?
Like he gets a cell right next to R. Kelly?
I don't think so. I don't think he gets locked
He
up.
skates.
I think he skates. Or he goes to like Bali.
According to multiple discussions surrounding the case, the alleged recordings may extend far beyond Diddy alone. There are claims of thousands of hours of footage, not only tied to his parties but possibly connected to Epstein as well. If true, this wouldn't reflect disorder. It would suggest a long-running system built to maintain leverage over powerful people. Elon Musk alluded to this dynamic during an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, suggesting that extreme financial support for certain political figures isn't always about loyalty. Sometimes, he implied, it's driven by fear. Fear that if the wrong person gains influence, sensitive lists emerge, names linked to Epstein, Diddy, and others never expected to face public scrutiny.
Have you ever seen the video?
You know how the Diddy stuff is also like the most popular thing right now?
Wait for it.
Like, isn't it weird that supposedly so much people were hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein?
Here it comes.
Except for Diddy.
And they would be best friends.
No, but and everyone was at Diddy parties except for like Jeffrey Epstein.
No. Because the theory, Gavin, the reason they did that at the same time and dropped the doc at the same time, because they want you to look in the Diddy way. They don't want you to see the Epstein Island. Because who's in the Epstein Island? Donald Trump, politicians. Bill Clinton.
You're right.
They want you to look at Diddy because it's all celebrities. They don't want you to look at politicians because it's like people that control you.
The anticipated release of the Epstein files is drawing bipartisan backlash, not because of what's been made public, but because of
photos of the notorious Jeffrey Epstein. The pictures were among a trove of materials released Friday by President Trump's Justice Department. Also in the release, photos of the powerful who ran an Epstein.
Reid Hoffman and Bill Gates were even referenced as individuals who might be deeply uncomfortable if such records ever became public. When Joe Rogan directly asked Elon Musk whether Hoffman appeared nervous, Musk's answer was brief and unambiguous: yes.
Like when people say that people can't keep secrets, what the f*** are you talking about? Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of these things are not like it's common knowledge, but we don't actually have the proof.
Right.
So the proof is there. I mean, there's lots of videos. Yeah, there's lots. I mean, the dude is like a mountain of like whenever they raided Epstein's place, there would have been like a mountain of evidence. Where is that mountain?
Right. What'd you do with it?
Yes. Like who took possession of the evidence?
Yeah.
Specifically.
Right.
The individuals.
Where are the tapes?
Yes.
How many levels of clearance do I have to get into the...
This is what some describe as the facilitator model in action. Figures like Epstein and Diddy allegedly created environments where powerful people believed they were safe. Spaces designed to make celebrities and politicians feel insulated from consequences. But these weren't just parties. According to allegations, they were controlled settings. Phones were taken, privacy was promised, cameras were hidden, guests were encouraged to relax while their worst moments were quietly documented. Once that line was crossed, the balance of power shifted. What felt like protection became leverage, and control followed immediately.
I'm just saying, if they recovered over 250 cameras, whoa, he had recordings of everything and everywhere. When they went in his house, I knew he was going to get charged. Listen to me. It was Homeland Security. It wasn't the regular Miami-Dade or LAPD or New York PD. It was the federal government. It was a task force. It made the news. Every channel was shut down and was on his house. The federal government.
That leads to the central question: was Diddy acting alone, or was he working on behalf of someone higher up? The issue grew heavier when Elon Musk mentioned Jennifer Lopez not as an accusation but as a credibility check. She was close to Diddy for years, yet has said nothing publicly. No warnings, no distance. That silence leaves only two possibilities. Either people truly didn't know what was happening inside those circles, which many find difficult to believe, or they knew enough to remain quiet for a reason. Then there's the reported footage. Federal raids allegedly uncovered thousands of hours of recordings, not just a handful of clips. According to claims made by figures like Jaguar Wright and Gene Deal, this material wasn't merely blackmail, it functioned as insurance. And with rumors that those recordings are now being moved or secured elsewhere, anxiety is reportedly growing among anyone who fears they might appear on them.
In America, as plus the Southern District of New York, do not bring that type of attention to a celebrity or anybody unless they have charges against them. Well, I'm just saying, if they recovered over 250 cameras, whoa, he had recordings of everything.
What makes this harder to dismiss is the legal silence. Even when alleged video evidence exists, certain charges never materialized. If something that visible can be overlooked, it raises an unsettling question about what else remains protected. The most disturbing element is what's known. It's what may still be hidden. Another moment that fueled speculation appeared in 50 Cent's documentary, when Bishop T.D. Jakes surfaced during discussions about Diddy's parties. Many viewers didn't see that inclusion as accidental. When Bishop Jakes was later questioned, his response avoided direct denial and instead brushed the issue aside. That reaction only intensified online speculation, sending discussions into overdrive rather than calming them.
That's why people get on my nerves talking about who you should be seen with. I do homeless shelters. I walk in prison ministries. I deal with because they're our children, our sons, and our daughters.
What unsettled many listeners was what followed. Rather than directly addressing the rumors, Bishop T.D. Jakes spoke broadly about repentance covering sin, then suggested repentance wasn't even necessary in his case. To many, that didn't come across as confidence. It sounded like avoidance, answering around the question without ever confronting it. Jaguar Wright responded quickly, arguing that if Bishop Jakes had any proximity to Diddy's party circle, it would have been for influence, money, or access. In her view, those gatherings weren't social events at all, but leverage zones, spaces where power is quietly accumulated and later weaponized. Former bodyguard Gene Deal added to the speculation by questioning why a respected religious leader would be anywhere near events insiders have described as deeply inappropriate. He also alluded to long-rumored recordings, suggesting that if such material ever surfaced, speculation would immediately give way to undeniable proof.
So here's a story. Sean Diddy Combs' former bodyguard claims music mogul had tapes of politicians and princes out there. Gene Deal, who was present the night before Notorious B.I.G. Biggie was fatally 1997, made the sensational comments during an interview with Art of Dialogue YouTube channel, and here's what he had to say. Go for it, Rob.
After finding out he was recording everything.
But not only celebrities, I don't think it's only celebrities going to be shook. He had politicians in there. He had princes in there.
Uh-oh.
He also had a couple of preachers in there.
Oh, damn.
Is he talking about who I think he's talking about?
You think?
Is he?
Hallelujah.
Cat Williams commented on that.
Cat Williams definitely brought him on. A preacher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what preacher that is?
I don't.
Cat Williams says, I don't care whether you're T.D. Jakes or Diddy.
Oh, yeah.
So,
he was the truth is coming out in 2024.
As more people began connecting the dots, some researchers started mapping the situation like a pyramid. Seen that way, the structure becomes deeply unsettling. At the base are famous figures with enormous public influence, yet still answering to forces above them. In the middle sit the gatekeepers, executives, financiers, and cultural power brokers who decide who gains access, success, and protection. And at the top is an alleged shadow presence said to bind everything together. This influence doesn't stay confined to one industry. It stretches across entertainment, politics, technology, and even religion. Dave Chappelle warned about this years ago when questioned about his decisions to walk away from major deals. He described an industry built not on creativity or freedom, but on control. His explanation made clear that escaping the system isn't as simple as it sounds.
People think I made a lot of money for Chappelle's show. When I left that show, I never got paid. They didn't have to pay me because I signed the contract. But is that right? I found out that these people were streaming my work and they never had to ask me or they never had to tell me. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. But is that right? I didn't think so either.
Someone with Dave Chappelle's level of success still felt boxed in. It raises an uncomfortable question about everyone else trying to survive without being crushed. After seeing all of this, the real issue becomes unavoidable. Where does this go next? Who actually holds power now and who stands to lose it when silence finally breaks? Are these just coincidences stacking up, or are we witnessing the slow unraveling of something far larger? That's the conversation people are starting to have. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to stay ahead of stories like this, make sure to subscribe because this discussion is far from over.